Good afternoon. Before I call this meeting to order, I'd like to note for the record that I will be serving as acting chairman of this meeting, Kevin Eunice, COO at Empire State Development. I'd like to now call to order the meeting of the directors of the Statewide Local Development Corporation for Friday, December 18th of 2015. The directors have received written materials in advance of the meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. I'd like to note we welcome public comment on the items following the agenda to ensure maximum opportunity for participation. Speakers representing themselves may speak up to 2 minutes. Speakers representing a group may speak up to 4 minutes per group. Speakers representing a group are allowed 1 speaker per group. Speakers' comments may only address the items being considered at today's meeting. Before we begin with the subsequent portion of the meeting, I'll ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflicts of interest with respect to any items on the agenda. If so, I will ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure at this time. We will then be sure to remind you to recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such item. Mr. Lee, do you have any items you wish to recuse yourself from?
No, I don't.
Hearing none. And noting for the record, I would like now to call upon Ray Salaberrios to present an item relating to the adoption of the corporation's proposed mission statement and related performance measurements. Ray?
Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon. In accordance with the Public Authorities Law, the Statewide Local Development Corporation must adopt a mission statement and related performance measurements to assist it in determining how well it is carrying out its mission. To assist you in your review, the mission statement and related performance measurements are set forth below. The mission statement: the Statewide Local Development Corporation spurs growth and capital investment in New York State, particularly by working with the New York Job Development Authority to support low-interest loans to manufacturers and other targeted industries throughout New York State. The performance measurements are the annual number of transactions closed, the number of jobs retained and created with each investment transaction, the amount of private capital investment leveraged, the number of transactions delinquent, the number of transactions in default, and the number of transactions approved by the authority during the reporting period. Upon these measurements, statewide may evaluate its performance in the achievement of its goals. The directors are requested to confirm their examination of the proposed mission statement and related performance measurements and to adopt it as set forth in the materials in accordance with the Public Authorities Law. Based upon the foregoing, I recommend approval of the requested actions.
Thank you, Ray. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on this item?
Ray, are these mission statements, performance measurements consistent with the prior statement and measurements?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Any further questions? Are there any comments from the public with regard to this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion?
Seconded. The motion is, I guess, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The motion is approved. Ray will present our next item, which relates to Ginsberg Institutional Foods. Ray?
Thank you again. The report before the directors is a proposed New York Job Development Authority loan in the amount of $5,500,000, or no more than 90% loan-to-value of the property in question. The JDA loan is to be used towards the construction of a new 65,440 square foot warehouse with freezer and refrigeration space for storage of Ginsberg's Institutional Foods inventory. The JDA loan will be secured by a second lien on the real estate located at 1023 Route 66 in Ghent, New York. The real property consists of 2 adjoining parcels containing 33 acres. One parcel is 26.1 acres located in the town of Ghent, and the other parcel is 6.9 acres located in the town of Claverack. Repayment of JDA loan will be guaranteed by Ginsberg Institutional Foods and G's Best Realty, Inc. Personal guarantees will be provided by David and Nancy Ginsberg and also by John and Ann Bruzzi. Ginsberg Institutional Foods started out in 1909 when Samuel and Mary Ginsberg opened a small neighborhood grocery store on Marketplace in downtown Hudson, New York. In 1946, their son Morton emerged from the military service to join the family business. By the early 1960s, schools had begun to offer noontime meals, more hospitals and nursing homes were opening, and people were dining out more than they had previously. In order to meet these changing needs, Morton decided to close the store and began calling on schools, restaurants, and healthcare facilities. He offered his customers free delivery of the products they needed from a single source at a discounted price. This was the beginning of Ginsberg. Currently, Ginsberg employs over 300 full-time employees, serving customers throughout 49 counties in 6 states within a 275-mile radius of the Hudson facility. This area is serviced by the Ginsberg fleet of 50 trucks that travel over 35,000 miles in an average week. The company's territory is serviced by Ginsberg freight affiliate Hudson Valley Logistics and Distribution, Inc., which specializes in refrigerated shipping. Hudson Valley Logistics also supports local and regional producers by moving products to new markets as a fee-based service throughout the greater Hudson Valley, the Black Dirt region, and the Rondout Valley. Through 3 generations and over 100 years of experience, Ginsberg's has grown into the largest food service distributor in the Hudson Valley with a reputation built on customer satisfaction and industry excellence. Ginsberg has been growing at a fast rate over the past few years. With the increased sales, increase in space is needed to store inventory, especially refrigeration and freezer space. At present, the existing facility has 30,000 square feet of freezer space. With the new facility, this space will be converted to refrigerated space, resulting in major savings as it will be kept at 32 degrees as opposed to the current -5 degree level. The new facility will create 60,000 square feet of freezer space, which will be cooled with an ammonia-based system in contrast to the current Freon-based system. Further, the freezer space will be logistically efficient as it will be a single level and therefore easy to maintain lower temperatures through the ammonia cooling system. A feasibility study was completed by the company, indicated that the savings associated with the new space will outweigh the additional cost of constructing it. Based on the project receiving a 1B+ rating, and that Ginsberg currently generates sufficient cash flow from operations to service all the projected debt, staff believes that the company is fiscally strong. However, Ginsberg will have to meet JDA's loan-to-value requirement of 90%. If the property does not appraise for at least $15 million, then the amount of the JDA loan will be modified in order to adhere to a 90% loan-to-value requirement. With the project, Ginsberg expects capacity to increase significantly from existing levels. At the completion of the project, 300 full-time jobs will be retained, and it is expected that 51 new jobs will be created over the next 5 years. I open up to questions.
Great, thank you, Ray. Are there any comments or questions from the board, from the directors with regard to this item? Ray, I do actually have one question. You talked about the 90% loan to value.
Yes.
And should that appraisal not show 15 million? If that happens, will this item have to come back to
Yes.
statewide?
More for informational purpose to make sure that the board and the directors are aware of what the loan to value of the actual building is and what the project will now become.
Okay.
And we also have to advise you as how they're going to make it the difference that's going to be needed.
Okay. And then after, should this item be approved by the statewide LDC, it then has to be reviewed and provide JDA?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Any comments from the public regarding this item? If not, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Motion?
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Ray. The motion is carried. Maria Cassidy will now present an item relating to the opening of a new office for trade and tourism in Puerto Rico. Maria Cassidy, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you. The directors are being asked to take several actions relating to the opening of a new office for trade and tourism in Puerto Rico. Home to over 1 million residents, Puerto Rico is considered the business center of the Caribbean region and enjoys a strong relationship with New York State. In September, the governor visited Puerto Rico and announced an aggressive action plan to promote mutual economic development between Puerto Rico and New York State. The action plan seeks to strengthen existing economic ties between these two jurisdictions, encourage mutual grassroots economic development, and engage the 1.2 million annual travelers to Puerto Rico who come primarily from East Coast regions to build awareness of New York's agricultural and other products and services through the Taste New York and I Love New York campaigns. As the state's primary economic development agency, ESD assumed responsibility for the governor's action plan initiative. To most effectively capitalize on potential partnership opportunities, ESD determined to open a local San Juan office to conduct and coordinate the initiative. In planning the office, ESD was advised that the most efficient way to obtain the various authorizations needed to do business in Puerto Rico would be to conduct its activities through a not-for-profit entity. As you know, Statewide is a wholly owned subsidiary of ESD and a not-for-profit. And although it's traditionally called on to facilitate Job Development Authority loans, Statewide has a broad mission to promote New York State businesses and to act in the public interest in that regard. Staff took a number of actions to prepare for an opening in concert with a major conference that was held in Puerto Rico in November. This conference gathers hundreds of individuals from the New York region who represent the New York Hispanic community, including many New York State and federal elected officials. Both Governor Cuomo and the governor of Puerto Rico were on hand for the ribbon cutting, together with many other New York City and New York State officials, community, labor, and business leaders. In other words, exactly the stakeholders who will be critical to the success of the new office's economic development activities. After researching a number of locations, ESD staff identified a suitable location in Old San Juan. Details of the office are in your materials. A director, Ms. Betty Enriquez, was hired together with retail staff for the Taste New York and I Love New York store, which is located on site. Ms. Enriquez will seek to build relationships with governmental entities, business and advocacy groups, and community organizations to foster strategic partnerships in the energy, high-tech, agriculture, and tourism industries. Please note that all costs associated with the opening and the operation of the office are being funded by ESD. The directors are requested to approve and authorize the opening and operation of a new office for trade and tourism in Puerto Rico, and to ratify all actions heretofore taken in support of this initiative for the purpose of increasing awareness of New York State originated goods and services in this strategic location and promoting mutual economic development, including, without limitation, the hiring of staff, the opening of one or more bank accounts, and the application for all appropriate permits, licenses, and approvals. All is more fully set forth in your materials. The directors are further requested to appoint Ms. Betty Enriquez to the office of Director of the Office for Trade and Tourism, effective as of November 2nd, to authorize the amendment of the bylaws of the corporation to provide for the indemnification of directors, officers, and other employees. I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item?
Maria, I got just a technical question here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the resolutions here on page 8.
Mm-hmm.
There are some names listed in paragraph 2, including Kevin, Eunice, and myself. We're okay to act on that?
Yes.
No capacity? Okay.
Yes. You are officers of Statewide Local Development Corporation.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any conflict in authorizing ourselves to do this.
No.
Okay.
You're acting in your capacity as a director.
Okay.
Thanks. I did have a couple questions. How was the office selected? The office, in Old San Juan. What do you know what that process was, or what the thinking was about that location?
Yes, ESD staff used a local broker and went down on site and considered over a dozen locations. Finally, a location on Calle San Francisco in Old San Juan was selected. It was selected because of its location primarily. It is on the main street through Old San Juan, which virtually every tourist to Puerto Rico ends up walking down Old San Juan. It's a main thoroughfare. It has a number of public plazas. It connects a number of important governmental buildings, and it's a very central location. This office had an appropriate amount of space. It was neither too large so that we would be paying more rent than we needed to, nor too small. It provided excellent on-street retail space for the I Love New York and Taste New York displays. And it was available much sooner than other spaces, and it also needed very little tenant fit out.
Great. Will this, you mentioned that the costs will come from Empire State Development. Will this item need to go to the ESD board?
It has received approval from Empire State Development. It doesn't need to go to the board because the estimated one-year cost, which is between $140,000 and $150,000, including tenant fit-out, lease costs, shipping the goods, the Taste New York and I Love New York goods, is under the threshold for board approval, but we do have October's CEO approval for all of these actions.
Great. Well, I know that I've talked to a couple of our colleagues in the tourism and the Taste New York team, and even our trade teams, and they're really excited about, frankly, the population that does come to Puerto Rico, both that lives and travels back and forth between New York, but also those travelers. Those are clearly folks who, they're committed travelers, right? And so I know our tourism colleagues are really excited and think it's a great opportunity. So thank you for the presentation. Are there any comments from the public with regard to this item? If not, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Motion?
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you. The motion is approved. And now, turning back to Ray, the hardest working man in the statewide LDC today. Prevent the profile of the New York Job Development Authority's portfolio. This item is being presented to the directors for informational purposes only, and there will be no vote required. Ray, all you.
Thank you. At present, the New York Job Development Authority portfolio has an outstanding principal balance of approximately $22.7 million across 35 active projects, as outlined in the attached JDA portfolio summary. The 35 active projects are divided amongst two classes: standard commercial loans and capital leases, which are addressed separately below. While the popularity of JDA's commercial loan program had waned over the last decade, the overall size of its portfolio has diminished. It is worth noting that those projects remaining have performed at a high level. JDA has not written off a portion of a loan in over 3 calendar years. To date, all loan repayments are current, giving JDA a 0 delinquency rate. Also of note are the efforts of JDA staff members that have given the commercial loan program a long-due revival. The program was relatively dormant for a number of years, closing over a single loan over the course of roughly 7 years, from 2006 to 2013. JDA staff members have successfully introduced a new marketing initiatives that has helped in increasing the popularity of JDA across the state. We've included the marketing materials for the members to review. Since July of 2014, the JDA board and the statewide board has approved 14 loan projects totaling nearly $31 million. Due to the fact that the JDA loans are traditionally takeout financing, there's often an 18 to 24-month lag between board approval and closing. While JDA has experienced some issues with projects reaching completion in the past, JDA staff remains optimistic that these recently approved projects will close.
Thank you, Ray. Any comments or questions?
Thanks, Ray.
Ray, again, let's
Last one.
continue with today's final agenda item, which relates to the Upstate Veterinary Specialties Program.
Right.
Again, this item is being presented for informational purposes only and will not require a vote. Ray?
In February 2015, the JDA Board approved a $2.16 million real estate loan to Upstate Specialty Properties, LLC, for the benefit of Upstate Veterinarian Specialties, PLLC. We've attached the original loan report for your review. The project has been progressing on schedule. However, there have been unforeseen expenses such as additional architectural fees and added town requested items, which have increased the total cost of the project by approximately $320,000. As a result, Upstate Veterinarian Specialties is asking the senior debt provider, Saratoga National Bank, for an additional $221,775. Of this amount, the company is comfortable covering the difference, plus any additional change orders it decides to make until the project is complete. Upstate Specialty feels this should finalize the funding it needs to complete the project. In the end, the total project costs are expected to be $5,721,000, of which Saratoga National Bank will finance $2,922,000 or 51%, and JDA will finance $2,160,180, 38% of total project costs, and the company's equity contribution will be $638,820 or 12% of total project cost.
Great. Thank you, Ray. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion?
Seconded. Thank you to everyone for your participation in the meeting. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.